We now return to your regular programming.
I might need a little help on this one. TIE Battle Protocol!
Battle Protocol activating now.
Now here we get introduced to Tai, the Autobot apparently sentient computer. She's a bit of an interesting character, as she's actually the only, or the nearest, to being the only female Cybertronian in the series. Robots in Disguise is a bit unique, again, in more ways than one, but one of those ways is that there are no female Transformers in it. It's, that I'm aware of, the only version of Transformers that doesn't have female Transformers. The original series had at least one episode featuring them, and then RC became a main character during the movie and the following seasons. Beast Wars had two main female characters, Airazor and Black Arachnia, and Transmutate was a one-shot character and has also been kind of posthumously identified as female. Beast Machines actually added two more female Transformers with both Botanica and Strika. For the most part, never been large in numbers. There's usually always been at least one or two female Transformers somewhere in any Transformer TV show. But Robots in Disguise does not have any. There's no explanation one way or the other about this. It's just never addressed. So Tai is the closest we come to that. For some reason, her avatar takes the form of a holographic human girl. Why a alien computer from a planet of robots takes a human form is not clear. As in so many things, Robots in Disguise never talks about it, never explains it, and nobody questions it. Perhaps this is a standard sort of thing whenever on an alien world, the holographic avatar just always assumes the image of the dominant sentient species of the planet. You could assume perhaps it helps with interactions, except that, as I said before, the Autobots don't really interact with humans. They have no connection to any human agency, government, corporation, or anything. Outside of really Koji and later Dr. Onishi, they don't interact with humans on a regular basis. Why does she have human form? Even if you argue it's for Koji's sake, she's not been introduced to Koji yet. This is actually the Autobot headquarters that her hologram is materializing in. It's a completely separate location, and she and Koji have not yet interacted, nor will they, in fact, in this episode, but we can see that she already has human form.
I need backup in Alpha Quadrant, Sector 3, ASAP.
Copy that. The Autobot brothers are in that quadrant. Prowl is online. Now for his younger brother, Sideburn. He's the fastest. Now I'm scanning for X-Brawn. He's the oldest and the strongest. Listen up, guys. This is a battle protocol.
Now here we're introduced to the Autobot brothers, referred to in Japan as the Car brothers. Again, kind of like with the absence of female Transformers, there's no real explanation for the familiar terms given to these. What exactly makes them brothers? We're not told. Like I said before, you'll probably get tired of hearing, Robots in Disguise doesn't say. But the Autobot brothers are three brothers with a clear oldest, middle child, and youngest. They're really the only Transformers in this universe that are described as being a sort of family unit like this. There's only one other pair that are described as brothers. And we'll talk about that when that comes up. They do go into actually a slightly more of an explanation there, but only slightly. Here, we're given no explanation. Even the term Autobot brothers largely is used to identify them as a team. Kind of like the special teams back in the 80s. The Autobots in Robots in Disguise are all grouped into teams. Other than Optimus Prime, really, and perhaps one or two others, Autobots don't operate as independent units. They are, in fact, assigned to a team, usually with a clear team leader, and they will operate normally as a group. Optimus, being in command of all of the teams, does not himself strictly belong to any of them. He's just simply the Autobot Supreme Commander over all the teams. The Autobot brothers are the first team were introduced, and that's their team name, as yes, each team has a name, and apparently because these three are brothers, they're known as the Autobot Brothers. There's less of a clear team leader with them, perhaps because they are brothers. I would say X-Brawn is typically portrayed as sort of an unofficial leader, perhaps because he is the eldest. Although Prowl is a very much by-the-book character and will often take a sort of leadership role as well by telling the others what's the proper protocol for this situation.
If I keep going at this rate, I think I can get to New York in time for breakfast.
My apologies, ma'am, but you're gonna have to take a cab.
Me? Why?
So again, here we see the Autobot brothers are pretending to be ordinary cars. Just like Optimus Prime, they've infiltrated human society by pretending to be our vehicles. Again, this doesn't really seem very practical, and actually after a couple of episodes, it's largely dropped because it is a very awkward premise. As near as I can tell, it really only exists to justify the title, Robots in Disguise. We also see here a sort of side character. I don't believe she's ever actually named in the series, but outside sources identify her as Kelly. She's not plot relevant typically. I can only really think of one or two instances where she actually has a impact on the story. And there is, in fact, as we'll talk about when we come to it, one episode where she actually has a major impact on the plot, even if sort of accidentally and very briefly. Largely, she exists as essentially the Waspinator of the TV series. If you're not familiar with Waspinator, this character comes from Beast Wars. And basically, he was the character that would get killed in every episode. Again, as I said, his spark would not be extinguished, so he was always repairable. But that was basically his gimmick, if you will. The reason being that he was both a fan favorite and hated by the producers of Beast Wars, as they found his particular speech pattern very annoying. And they had actually wanted to write him out of the show at the end of the first season. But because he was so popular with the fans, they were talked into keeping him. And so they dealt with that by essentially killing him off every episode. He very much became the butt of every joke kind of character. Kelly will kind of fill this role for Robots in Disguise. She's never killed, of course, being that she's a human being and not a robot. But something bad will always happen to her. Usually only a minor inconvenience, but kind of something enough to ruin her day. She appears in almost every episode and is basically just a running joke.
It's an emergency. Sorry. Oh.
Hey, that's a pretty slick little chassis you got there.
Oh my.
Quit fooling around, Sideburn. You got ties alert same as I did.
Now, I don't mean to keep harping on the lack of female Autobots in the story, but I do find it interesting that the Autobots seem to be aware of the concept, despite the fact that the entire cast on both the good guys and the bad guys are male. The Autobots still seem to have a concept of flirting with a member of the opposite sex, or whatever that means for robots. As this is also a running gag in the series, Sideburn will flirt, as they call it, with every little red sports car he comes across. Yes, it's just as annoying as it sounds. He will do this no matter how inconvenient it is at the time, and there are even entire plot points that revolve around him flirting with these non-sentient, non-robot machines. Fortunately, it is something that typically only happens in the first half or so of the series. Sideburn will eventually, they seem to have got tired of the joke. Some people describe it as Sideburn growing up, but that's not really accurate. His character does not go through any arc, and he never does actually mature. It's simply the writers eventually get tired of the same joke with him, and instead introduce even more immature characters to kind of take that role from him.
You all right, kid? I'll take that as a yes. Now find a place to hide and stay out of the way, okay?
Okay.
Now, I know this seems a little bit random that X-Brawn's giant head is in the cabin with Koji, but I assume this is also a bit of an Easter egg. If you owned the X-Brawn toy, That is actually where his head ends up when you transform him. That's the only reason I can think of why this scene is in here.
Come on, X-Brawn. Take your best shot.
You must be a mind reader, friend, because that's exactly what I'm planning to do. But there's a little errand I have to run first. You hang tight, we'll be right back.
Hey, wait! What am I supposed to do till you come back?
Measure your tongue or something.
This is bad comedy.
Now, even as a kid, I did not like this scene. X-Brawn runs off to do his errand, as he tells Slapper, and Slapper says, "What should I do?" And X-Brawn tells him to measure his tongue or something, and then Slapper actually does it. This is the exact opposite the way the characters would be treated in Beast Wars, or even Beast Machines, as all the characters were treated as reasonably intelligent. Even the characters that were less intelligent were still not complete morons. Little quips like running an errand or something would be typical banter, but no Predacon would simply stand around in the battlefield while his comrades were engaged with other Maximals and just wait for the Maximal he's fighting to come back. If a Maximal ran off somewhere, either Predacon would pursue him, or he would team up with one of the other Predacons to take on another Maximal, or proceed on to whatever goal it is the Predacons were trying to do. Acquire stasis pods, or whatever the plot was. The fact that Slapper actually sits there measuring his tongue, to be honest, even as a kid, I felt as if the show was insulting me. Slapper should jump in and help Darkscream or Gasskunk by attacking Prowl or Sideburn, or he should come to Megatron's aid and attack Optimus Prime. He shouldn't be standing there measuring his tongue, as presumably meant to be some type of joke. I'm not laughing.
42 feet 3 inches. That's impressive.
X-Brawn, transform!
Hey, that's not fair. You tricked me.
You tricked me? What exactly was the trick here? Even in the show's context, X-Brawn has not played a trick on Slapper. He simply got an attack from, I guess, height advantage. I'm not even necessarily sure what the advantage of this maneuver is, why he couldn't have simply shot Slapper on the street. Like I said, Beast Machines had the reputation for being the worst Transformer show ever, until this came out. And Robots in Disguise is not even the worst Transformer show, as they've done far worse than this, unfortunately.
Let's see how you do against my skunk tail attack.
No way you're getting through my barrier shield. Have a little fusion flame.
It's amazing how a nice day can turn into such a bummer.
Yes, in an anime, even blocking with a shield requires you to name it.
Congratulations, Darkscream. You just won the prize for most obnoxious life form.
Flattery will get you nowhere, Autobots. Beast mode!
I actually do kind of like that line. The Predacons, regardless of what universe they in, are always nearly unabashedly evil, and insulting them on their evil they actually take as a positive compliment. Also, props to Darkscream for correctly using the command code Beast Mode to transform into his Beast Mode.
No, a scratch! That does it, Darkscream! Now you're really gonna get it! I just washed and waxed this morning!